a much better pace, much better judge race than they did in the semi-finals, and that's what's really important.
Up now, though, to the start for the lightweight men's double sculls B final. Over in lane 1, Andrej BENDTSEN and Steffen JENSEN of Denmark. Clearly worth a shot in this double as they medalled at Eton World Cup in the singles. Lane 2 is with the USA, their debut at senior level in this boat class. Lane 3, Austria, just narrowly missing out on a medal place at the Eton World Cup. Lane 4 goes to Poland, who got gold medal in this boat category at the Eton World Cup. So interesting how this has developed. In lane 5 we had the Netherlands, and this is the Ukraine in lane 6.
Polish double in this. I mean, they rode an epic last 500 at Eton Dorney to go through the Chambers brothers, who are, of course, in the A final, and the Poles are going to be gutted not to be in the A final. Just rode out of it by the Greek double on, what was it, 0.6 of a second. So seeing a lot of Ukrainian crews, aren't we, up the front end of the field. A lot of development going on in Ukrainian rowing. I just was on the medal rostrum for a 25 reunion photo with one of the Ukrainian coaches, Valery Dusenko. Won the world title back in the then Soviet quad in 1991. A little bit more weight than he had then.
I'm sure.
But he's coaching the Ukrainian men's quad in the final tomorrow, and they are trucking, so he's got the old Russian style. They used to have a beautiful way of sculling, but Ukraine in this race too.
Yeah, my money's certainly on that Polish double there, Artur MIKOLAJCZEWSKI and Milosz JANKOWSKI. Attention.
Ooh, what's that? Is that a little full start?
That looked like a little break off the blocks there, didn't it?
It did. I don't know without the umpires who rings the bell, but they must have decided that was fine. It was a lovely little squeeze out, wasn't it?
It was, it was. But blasting out is the USA. I mean, they're absolutely going for it. And we've spoken about this in the lightweight men's events particularly, how important it is to really be competitive from the get-go, and how much faster the crews tend to leave the blocks, and the stroke rate that they attack these starts with is quite often absolutely mind-blowing. The sprinting at either end of the race is unbelievable. I mean, we've seen so many races with crews finishing well up above 40 strokes a minute, so not surprised to see them blast out at the start in this event.
They were in the same semi as the Polish, but 7 seconds slower than the Polish in that semi, so I wonder if that's given them the incentive to burst out the blocks early and try and stay in front of the Polish from the get-go. But they're out half a length ahead of the Austrians at the moment, Paul SIEBER and Bernhard SIEBER, two brothers in the Austrian boat, and they're also just a canvas up on the Polish, who managed to post the fastest time in this category at this event so far. They did a 6:17 in that semi-final, so it'll be interesting to look at the time comparisons when they get towards the end. But coming up to the 500, USA leading the way by 3/4 of a length. Time to the 500, 1:34. Very quick first 500 there by the US.
Yeah, it's pretty quick that for lightweights. I think, you know, the world record for lightweight rowing is 6:10, where, you know, you can divide that 1:32.5, 500 to get you down the track in 6:10. There's the Poles. We know what their finish is all about, don't we? And Artur MIKOLAJCZEWSKI and Milosz JANKOWSKI really experienced are coming through. I mean, this is a massive race for all these guys. We keep saying, but 7th place does matter for funding. It does matter for your status in the team. This is a long, long old Olympiad. Another, well, 3-4 World Championships before the Olympics comes along, and this is part of a stage in the journey. And you may be fed up in the B final, but it's going to matter for your training next year and your motivation. So that's a real big incentive.
And we're seeing the US now starting to get pegged back, which has happened to so many crews with those blistering starts. Really starting to feel that burn in the second 500, and that's where it's going to hit if you don't have that really solid transition into your mid-race. They're just holding on at the moment, but level pegging for second at the moment. We have the Poles and the Austrians.
It was interesting looking at the stroke rates that just came up there, because the Poles were down at 35. The other two crews, Austria and USA, on the screen were up at 36. So it's only 1 stroke a minute slower, but it's clearly having an impact. They've just relaxed and settled into this slightly better than the Austrians and USA, increasing their boat speed at a slightly lower rate of striking. Coming up to the halfway though, and just nosing out in front. Polish have done it. They've rode through the Americans, rode through the Austrians in that 500. And they're only a nose ahead, but they look so strong and comfortable.
And of course, Poland's got a great history in the lightweight double sculls. The double have won that title twice when it first came into the Olympics as an Olympic sport in, I think, 2000 and 2004. Of course, the title first won by Switzerland, the Gear brothers, in '96. But it's a big tradition to defend, and this is a good Polish double to do it. And the Austrians just ahead of them. Yeah, just pointing out, Pete, yeah, the Dutch, the MUDA brothers, I mean, they rode a nightmare of a semi-final, didn't they? Really coming in 5th place, and they were so strong in that 4 last year. So for them, if they get a look of a stern, I mean, when you're rowing, Cookie, when you get a look of someone's stern, a bit of momentum, it's such a buzz, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you've always got the upper hand at that point, because when you have that momentum, it's really hard if the crew hasn't noticed to react, and they'll always be 1 step behind. So the MUDA brothers, I mean, look at the momentum they've gotten now. They've taken all 3 crews by surprise. What an amazing third 500 from them. They're pushing up almost for second now, just getting over the Austrians. They'll be vying for first place here. This is a massive third 500 from the Dutch team.
I'd say that they took that 1,000-meter marker as a point in their race strategy to say, if we're behind at this point, we're going to go for it in this third 500. And my God, have they done exactly that. They've rode through 2 crews already, and it looks like there's no stopping them, because they're moving up on the Poles coming up to the 1,500. Poles just managing to keep a nose ahead, but I don't think that's going to stay there for long. 0.7 of a second behind are the Netherlands from Poland.
While we focus on this race, I mean, one disappointing thing will be the Danish double aren't in the picture, and just thinking of Henrik Steffen, who won the lightweights so dramatically yesterday, lightweight singles. They've got to find a double for Steffen for Denmark for the Olympics. And I know their coach, Tommy Poulsen, is going to be frustrated that he hasn't got a quicker crew at this event, because he's got to build on it for the next 4 years. But what a great... The MUDAs have kept moving, haven't they? I still think the Poles will have a sprint, though.
Yeah, and we've seen the Americans now move just out of picture, really starting to pay for that blistering start that they had. There's a great picture of the Danish crew. You know, they look pretty good, but they just can't match the strength of the leading boats at this point. Strokeman
Steffen Jensen did the double with Steffensen at Lucerne, and I think they were only 8th or whatever. He does sometimes beat Steffensen in training, but, you know, they've got to be closer to this sort of pace that the MUDAs are setting.
They really are setting that pace. They've lifted up the rating there quite significantly. They were down at 35, just passing through the 1,500, but it shot through the roof there, because all of these boats have wound up for a strong finish and starting to move up the field. The Polish just fending off a charge from the Austrians here.
Yeah, I think the Dutch look too good. I mean, look at them go. Look at that elastic rhythm around the back. I mean, the Polish are really strong. They're working for it, but the Dutch look too good. That stroke rate just keeping them in front there.
Absolutely phenomenal. 3/4 of a length ahead of the World Cup champions from Eton earlier this year.
You could see, you know, that the stroke man, Tycho MUDA, turned around to congratulate Vincent MUDA. I mean, they may be fed up with of being in the small final, but that win did mean a lot for them. It's redemption after their poor result yesterday.